Alright, now we're going to show the code we're using to trade the pound dollar using a simple code builder, fxDreema. I'm not going to go into all the details here, just the overall strategy. I always start the string, if you want to call it, with this pass, blank pass. I'm not sure if that's necessarily just to have it. So the condition that we're saying, now let's take a look at where we're at, and what we're saying is that if this moving average, 4-period moving average, linear weighted, so it's a weighted average on the close, if that were to cross upwards, has to cross upwards, the smoothed 100 deviation envelope 0.7. Okay. So if we come in here, you can see we have the moving average 4 that is weighted on the close. And this little symbol means if it's crossing upwards, and we're looking at an envelope with a value, a moving average value of 100, smoothed. You see how we've got the 0.7 close price and the upper line. Okay, just to, what we mean by upper line is it's the deviations that are above the main moving average, and these are the deviations in the lower line down here. And what we're doing is we put on two trades, 0.01, very, very small testing trades. We have to group them so that they are separated from each other for control. The type is a buy. Now you can see I've got a pretty small trailing stop here. It doesn't start until it's about 19 pips to the good, and it's a 20 pip trailing stop. The reason this is 19 basically is if it comes all the way back down, we'll only basically break even, pretty close. The other trade is meant to be much longer. You can see it's a 50 pip with a 49 pip. So this is really a gamble in that if the thing just takes off, we just want to ride up with it. You can see the group number is 11, which means it's handled a little differently. This is just a symbol or a piece of code that says, and you've got to align it with the group number, that says there's no trade on at the moment. This restricts you to just one trade at a time on this group of code here. And then the buy now is, again, has to have the group number. I'm only buying 0.01. I do set fixed pips for take profit and stop loss. Just in case my code fails or something happens like that, I call it kind of like an emergency setting, really. And then the same, and in this one, you can see we set much, much higher stop losses and take profits, because this is the gambling one where we're basically saying, hey, if this thing takes off, let's ride with it without a short stop loss that is probably going to be taken out, even if it's for the positive. It's going to, because of the movement and the volatility within an hour, we're trading on an hour chart, the short, smaller stop losses usually are taken out fairly early. Now, the other thing we're doing here is what we don't have then is when to sell. So what's what we use the red lines for? And the red lines are also envelopes, linear weighted so that they are moving faster along with the price, 25 period moving average. What I'm looking at is 0.05. Now, what I'm basically doing here is these are stop losses that are going to follow up, hopefully, up with the price. If the moving average does turn around up here, this is hopefully what it's going to do. It's going to, if it turns around here and starts coming down, it will cross some of these lines. And then we adjust which line we're basically setting. And I think in this case, because it's a bit of a tester, we're actually taking this high one here, which is 0.15 upper line. So in the code, you'll see we have moving average weighted. This is if it's coming down, remember, to cross over that moving average. And it's 25, it's weighted, and it's 0.15, and it is the upper line. And that's why we have to have numbers on these group numbers, because it has to tell us to trade, to close this group number 10 and this group number 11. And it will basically, whichever one of those comes down and hits that moving average, or envelope of a moving average, it will just close the trades. Now, we don't have to worry about this continuing to trade because we're using crossing values rather than, say, higher than values. A higher than value would basically mean that, let's say something goes on in here, either a stop or a short moving average, or I should say a short trailing stop takes us out, it would just automatically take a trade again. If it was just the value in here was simply, rather than a crossing amount of a line, it was just greater than. I do use greater than fairly often, but these crossing values are much, they stop at basically continuing to trade on you. Basically the trade is over for the most part. I mean, if you left it on there for some period of time, it would get hit again probably. But as we're trading really on a daily and weekly kind of basis here, we're going to be keep an eye on that. So I've saved this as a script, or I should say as EA, and it is on my chart. You can see we're on the pound USD. It's running right here. We got a little smiley face, so it is happy. This is a demo account. All of this stuff is just taking place on a demo account as we're experimenting and learning. And technically what should happen here now is, let's take an even closer look at this, is when this pink line here crosses above, you can see how it's very close here now. If it crosses above that line, 0.15, not 0.15, 0.7, it should take the buy for me. So we'll keep an eye on this.